All right. Well, so welcome everybody. For those who don't know, I'm Cujo or Josh. Um, and so this week, to be honest, the drone news is kind of light. I don't know if that has stuff to do with the election or what's going on.
Nobody tried to
But
sneak anything in because of all the election news?
Yeah, I mean, not really. I mean, yeah, I do have the Sony Drone X Jet. I do have that news article. I have one on the switch over from the integration pilot program to Beyond. A little bit on some military drone stuff. And another one on an article about what people are thinking or what people think about drones and kind of what's going on with that. But beyond that, it's just been kind of quiet these last 2 weeks. So yeah,
I have a I have a question.
yeah, sure.
There's nothing about the FFA right now or the FAA. There's nothing.
So no, I mean there is a little bit with the switchover. They are shutting down the integration, the drone integration pilot program, and they're moving to a new segment or a new program called Beyond. Um, so this is coming from AOPA. And it was, I think, last week or the week before where Secretary Elaine Chao announced the end of the Unmanned Aircraft Systems Integration Pilot Program and the start of a new effort in the same breath. 8 of the current 9 participants in the IPP were named as participants. Basically, they're going to be the integration pilot program. Basically, consisted of doing tests of range, like applications for drones, different types of missions, flying beyond visual line of sight, so on and so forth. And now they're moving on to slightly more complex tasks, it seems like. So we're talking about beyond visual line of sight with onboard electronics that allow the aircraft to detect other flying objects. And let's see, Iris Automation, which is San Francisco tech startup, announced a new system which would basically automatically move the drone out of the path of any conflicting air traffic. I would assume it's using some kind of motion. It says it's running sophisticated motion detection algorithms. So that would be interesting to see how far ahead or around the drone that could see. But it's a pretty long article. I'm not going to beat it paragraph for paragraph, but it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this new Beyond program. We do have Sony.
Getting back to his question a little bit more,
Yeah.
like there has been no more rumors or information directly from the FAA about things like new regulations or the remote ID stuff. As far as we know, we expect that to happen sometime in December or at least sometime before the end of the year. Who knows if they're going to surprise us right after Christmas again or if it'll just be tomorrow. But
Right. And
Well,
there have been hints that it might move into the early next year. This being the remote ID final
Yeah.
rule.
well, thank goodness they're not ruining FPV yet.
not yet.
As
No.
much.
Well, also keep in mind that if what comes out in December or when it comes out on remote ID, if it doesn't change from the NPRM, there is a 3-year kind of spool up period for it. So
Yeah, it seems
even
really
just
unlikely
to
they
say-
would change that part of it.
Yeah. So the hobby's not going to get ruined tomorrow, but depending on what happens with it, we'll kind of respond appropriately
Right.
to that kind of situation.
And 3 years is a long time. A lot of regulations can change before they actually go impact us significantly in 3 years. And likely some of the people who are in charge of these rules will also change within 3 years.
Absolutely. So especially if we see a change in administration, I would imagine a lot of the heads of like Elaine Chao would be replaced with somebody from the Biden administration. So
Right. And it's very likely that Administrator Dixon will be replaced as well.
mm-hmm.
And it's not like it all is
and-
just going to go away, because Congress has said that they have to do this,
Correct.
but the details of how may change.
Right. Right.
Correct.
And there is a 60-day comment period that we'll have to submit a complaint if the final rule is draconian.
Yes. All right. So Sony is entering the drone market. So its new brand is called AirPeak, and they have not released any type of information regarding the drone, as far as I can tell. All they announced was that they are inspired by the recent proliferation of drones and the changes they have caused in both the industrial and creative sectors.
I'm not sure I would have gone with AirPeak as the name of a drone.
That sounds kind of terrible.
Especially if you change it to PEEK instead of PEAK.
Right.
It's all about spying. Not quite the image we want to portray.
Yeah, no, not really. So Sony describes the drone as being developed within the field of AI robotics, which along with the aim to enable drone use where it was previously difficult to do so. I don't know what that means.
Yeah,
but
I heard
I guess
some people speculating what does that mean, where it's previously difficult to do so.
So that'll be interesting. Maybe they'll have a finer tooth comb on their lockout system. I don't know.
Yeah, like Alex says, no geofencing, or at least you can fly where DJI won't let you. I don't know.
Or maybe they'll integrate, something like Lance into the app that the drone is using. Who knows? That would be interesting. So all they've really posted is the picture that's there on the link and a brief statement. So
should be interesting from the computer end of things. Sony is pretty capable in creating workstations and reduced instruction set computers, linking them to pretty powerful graphics. So should be interesting. I think it's a very difficult from an engineering perspective to catch up with 2,000 DJI engineers, but even if they go in an open source, tall order.
It would be fun to see Sony and DJI duking it out, trying to make better and better products. And as Bruce says,
anybody that can do it.
Yeah, it's probably professional level, higher end stuff.
Yeah, I did see some rumors about that as well too. So we'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Let me see. This one's kind of cool. I'll group those together, but this one's pretty neat. So they are using drones, and it looks more like fixed wing drones, but they are sending drones into volcanoes to monitor gas emissions and possible seismic activity so that they can help local communities who live near these.
When I read that headline, I thought it was like somebody did a dive straight into a volcano. If somebody wants to donate a quad, that'd be fun.
I like the footage of that. It looks pretty nice.
Yeah. So they're geared towards helping communities, give a early alert system to possible volcanic eruptions, which would definitely save lives. It's you in the bathroom. There you go. So it says scientists have a few ways of forecasting when a volcano is going to blow. They can monitor earthquake activity in the area to detect tremors. When clear skies allow, satellites can also rapidly detect and measure volcanic emissions of gases. We also want to quantify the carbon emissions from this very large carbon dioxide emitter. Although volcanoes emit just a fraction of the carbon emissions humans do, researchers still want to be able to estimate what carbon dioxide they do emit to factor this into the carbon budget we have left to limit the effects of climate change. The drones flew over 2,000 meters high into Manam's fine volcanic plumes, and some 6 kilometers away from their launching pad, well out of sight from their pilots. On each flight, the drones took images of Manam and its 2 craters, measuring and measured the gas composition right above the rising plumes, and collected 4 bags full of extra gas for rapid analysis. That's pretty cool. They're just literally pumping the gas into little bags for research. Very unique.
Kind of like that FPV drone that was used to catch whale snot. I don't know if you saw that one.
I did. That was funny.
That was a Shen drone, right?
It might have been.
Sure.
It was custom designed for that purpose.
Gas bags in the drone scene without creating more. There you go. It's funny.
Did they mention? Did they talk? Sorry, I just joined. Did they talk about how they're protecting the drone from the heat?
So let me see.
Yeah, the last thing you want is your props to melt while you're flying over a volcano.
Right.
Yeah, your props.
Be worried about the foam wings
and your avionics on board, right? The electronics on board.
Exactly.
I think they're
That's what I was thinking about.
It doesn't say anything that I'm seeing about heat or anything like that.
Because it's a caustic atmosphere in a hurry. It's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if they're staying 2,000 meters above, I mean, that's a pretty significant...
6,000 feet, right?
Yeah. I would say that it's probably not as bad, but... you know, I've never been around a volcano either, so
they got to get some FPV pilots trying to get some closer samples.
I have seen some people flying, like just videos of people flying around them, but yeah, nothing like getting down in there. That would be interesting.
Yeah. And then the batteries would be another big part, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So. Yeah, heat resistant, everything. Maybe they use a coating. Maybe they use just a reflective shields that I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a fun project though. If I had a volcano in my backyard.
Let's see. This is a test from the U.S. Army. So infantry to receive supply drops by drone in upcoming test. This is coming from Drone DJ. Let's see, they're saying that the 18th Airborne Corps will be testing out drone supply drops for the first time next year. They'll be receiving unmanned drops. Let's see, the exact unit receiving the unmanned drops is unknown, obviously, to keep the soldiers and drone security intact. To get the deliveries airborne, the Army is testing out 3 possible options. The first is a helicopter-style drone that can carry up to 70 pounds, but needs to be manually loaded and unloaded. The second option can carry 120 pounds and is a VTOL drone that doesn't need to be unloaded thanks to the bag it drops off at the delivery location. The third option is a drone that can haul up to 110 pounds using a large cargo net that is then dropped at the delivery location. If everything goes well during the test and a drone model is selected, it is expected that the cargo delivery drones will be used more widely throughout the Army. So obviously the benefit to the soldiers is that they can continue to move while the drones keep them supplied without having to wait for a supply convoy or anything like that to reach them. So pretty interesting. And then there was another one that kind of links into that, which is pretty interesting. Let me stop and grab this comment. Thinking about the volcano thing, I would do at least one drone way above with thermal core, constantly mapping the volcano, then send in the sample drones to less hot parts of the map that you make path in heat safe areas. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. This also comes from the Army. They're looking at mass recharging for drone swarms. This was pretty interesting. Obviously, we know that most drones have a short battery life on them. with consumer drones like DJI and some of the bigger ones, packing up to 30 to 45 minutes, before recharge. So when you start thinking about doing drone supply drops, one of the things that they need to do is obviously recharge those drones. So it says the Army researchers are tackling that problem with a variety of methods, one of which includes an unmanned ground vehicle that weaves its way across the land space, acting as a charging station for hordes of drones as they conduct their resupply missions. Imagine in the future the Army deploying a swarm of hundreds or thousands of UAS systems. And if launched at the same time, that means most could be returning home at the same time, all needing a place to charge. So let's see. Wireless charging would remove the major hurdle of landing the drone in the correct location, orientation. You can't just land it. It will just fall off. You have to have a magnet to hold it, charge it, and then depart. It should do it autonomously. So it's pretty interesting stuff.
Does anyone work in the DoD realm of like with UAS?
I don't know of anybody that does. I mean, I know of companies that have potential contracts, but I don't know. A lot of that stuff is going to be, way high on the confidential list.
Yeah, I actually work for. I'm friends with Alex. Actually, I work for Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Lab, and we do a lot of DoD related UAS projects. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, some of these concepts that you just brought up are. I've heard about them a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm doing slightly different stuff than that specifically, but. Where can I share a link? Should I just put in the general comments?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Something that you guys are going to find really, some people are getting real scared about. Turkey's building this company called Kargu, suicide drones, basically is what they're calling them. Swarming suicide drones.
Yeah, so China.
Here you go. It's my companies or people in the DoD are getting real scared of this guy, and my company might be acquiring one of these just to test them out and see what they can do. Apparently, they can go 90 miles per hour or something crazy like that.
Well, they can't go over 100 or they'd be illegal in the U.S.
And Dan went there. Let's see.
Yeah, there's a video if you scroll down about halfway through the article or so, a quarter of the way through the article. Pretty crazy.
So let me read this real quick. Turkish military reportedly plans to buy more than 500 quadcopter type Kargu series loitering munitions or suicide drones in the near term.
Loitering munitions. That's an interesting term.
It very much is. Kargus at present can operate in semi-autonomous or manually controlled modes, but work is underway to give up to 20 of them the ability to carry out mass attacks as a swarm, which could give Turkey's troops a potentially game-changing new capability.
15 pound, 90 miles an hour, 30-minute airtime. That sounds color me skeptical on those numbers.
Exactly. That's what when someone brought this up to me, I was like, I would love to see that person go 90. I mean, the other two maybe, but like 90 miles per hour, that's a little stretch. But
exactly. Yeah. I mean, they're a 5-inch quad, FPV racing drone. Sure, 3 to 5 minute flight time though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I mean the amp draw on that.
Yeah, and a payload of measured in grams.
Yeah.
I mean, look at this thing. For something that would be,
it's not that big even.
Yeah.
No, but it's over. I would say that it's probably completely over-engineered for something that's disposable.
Right.
Let's see. One of 3 types of different warheads, including high explosive fragmentation, a thermal barrack for targets in confined spaces, such as building or caves, and a shape charge for attacking lightly armored threats. 3 pounds. That's a heavy drone, and to go that fast for that long of a period of time, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, they have some videos on it at the end. That video, if you guys want to watch, there is one snapshot at the end of it attacking something and blowing up. So.
Interesting.
Thanks for bringing it up. This is very interesting. Yeah, there's there's some of the guys in the in a Facebook group, Long Range Hooligans, work for military projects.
Interesting. All right. This comes from, let's see. My drone's already fragment and burst into flames. Yes, there you go. No need for explosives, right? Just a typical crash, you know. So,
drones. A kindred soul, someone else who hates Prius.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh my gosh,
they're horrible. They just look ugly. Anyway, moving on. So this was a survey done by European Union funded Respond Drone, where they're working on developing a situation awareness system for emergency situations, providing critical information and communication services for first responders. They held a focus group in 6 different European countries. The focus group revealed what most participants associated drones with amateur photography and videography, children's toys, and military operations, or most knew very little about drones.
It's interesting that the article we looked at just before this one was about exploding drones.
Right. So comments on the acceptance of the operation of drones were split between negative feedback, mainly due to privacy and noise concerns, and the understanding of the potential improvements it could offer to emergency responders to a lesser extent. What people think about drones for public safety and first response application is important. Most communities are more willing to accept drones if they see them as beneficial or life-saving. That public acceptance often translates into fewer local regulations designed to limit drone use, which is something that we've been talking about for a long time. I know that Bruce has been talking about for a long time, is getting the general public to understand what drones actually do, what their capabilities are, how they benefit, the STEM programs behind them, as opposed to just seeing them as a nuisance. So the answers indicate that drones still appear to be new and somewhat unknown to the vast majority. Respond Drone recommends that emergency drones carry special identifications such as color specific or a logo. Obviously, this is for EU and for emergency type drones. But it definitely stands to reason that, the public still doesn't know a whole lot about what drones do. So let's see. U.S. acts over Israeli arms sale to China. Loitering drones made by Israel.
It's an older article. I just wanted to bring it up that this is something that was the ones that loiter over the ocean and they attack military radar. So if a ship goes by with a military radar of your enemy country, this thing goes, "Oh, I'm the frequency I don't like." So it hones in on it and actually attacks the ship. Right. It can't destroy the ship, but it attacks the expensive radar.
Mm-hmm.
These are bigger type.
Big boys.
Yeah, these are big guys, not like quadcopter type stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but loitering tech is bigger, and now it's starting to become miniaturized. It's interesting that, like many other types of things,
which is even more dangerous because it's cheaper to make and it's smaller, so harder to detect even. And the big boys like the MQ-1s and the Predator. I mean, do you know what they were? I don't see anything about the article saying specifically what kind of a UAS. Do you know what kind of UAS they were selling, or?
The Harpy killers, the Israelis made these things that were prop style ones, fixed wing prop things, pusher looking thing.
Okay, so so it's smaller than MQ. I've never seen it, but it's smaller than MQ-1.
Yeah, they could be launched off a small patrol boat or something like that.
Off a rail launcher or something. Yeah.
So related to that public opinion piece we were just looking at, Bruce brings up that movie, The Flow State movie, the trailer that's out. Hopefully, if enough people see that and it becomes popular and it's on Netflix or something, it may have enough sway to adjust public opinion somewhat.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you haven't watched the movie trailer, definitely go check it out.
I see the picture you posted. Yeah, that's.
All right. And the last article, and I'm sorry that a lot of this is military oriented, but literally news is scarce right now.
All the military stuff at the same time as the U.S. elections, huh?
Well, you know, I mean, we got all that stuff. I mean, that's the one thing is the military generally doesn't stop innovating, and you know, we've seen it in the past and in previous shows that you know, where like Israel's spooling up drones and we're spooling up drones and we're spooling up counter drones, and that's what this article is about. So yeah, we do have Biden's drone swarm display. That did happen. That was pretty interesting for sure.
Was that like mixed in with fireworks and drone display, or is it just?
I believe so. Yeah.
Display, yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, Brendan Schulman commented on it that, you know, hats off to whomever got the waivers on that one. That would have been brutal to get that approval, but they did it.
Yeah. Did they get approval or did they just do it?
I would imagine they got approval.
Yeah, Secret Service really does not have a sense of humor, and as appropriate, and that is appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. So this one, the Pentagon has identified a lack of institutionalized training when it comes to defeating drone threats and is developing a common regimen across the joint force, according to official with a new office dedicated to countering small unmanned aircraft systems. The gap was identified during an assessment completed earlier this year and led by the Director of Operational Test and Evaluation. So I'm going to stop right here.
Yeah.
I mean, wasn't there an attack in, was it Venezuela like a year and a half ago, or a supposed attack?
Yes.
I mean,
yes, there was.
Shouldn't that have been identified a little sooner than that? And I've heard reports of, you know, I think we've all heard reports and read news articles of U.S. military running into, you know, these types of, you know, rigged together UAS, you know, bomb kind of IED kind of things.
Problems, they haven't had anything. I'm working a lot of counter UAS stuff in the military right now, and
yeah,
the problem is that they don't have anything to fight it. That's the problem. They still don't have anything to fight. They've been spending a lot of money in the last couple of years just like the counter. They're comparing it. Some of the folks are the counter EOD folks, like the IED guys that were. It's the same kind of fight, but even harder now with drones because they're up in the air.
Yeah,
it's like
open air. They're a little bit faster. Obviously, they're mobile. They're not stationary IEDs.
Yeah. This is really interesting. I want to see that weapon. I wish they talk a little bit more about that weapon that they're holding there in that picture.
Yeah, well, if you do, and I've pulled up a couple different ones, but in past episodes of our town halls, but
looks like they took a Yagi antenna and stuck it on a potato cannon.
Well, it's probably a frequency blaster is probably what that is.
Yeah, sorry.
I would say there's probably 200 different counter UAS, you know, systems being developed right now, just in the United States, if not more worldwide. There's going to be, I would imagine, whoever comes out on top is going to be a wealthy company.
Well, the regulation is just a total mess. Right now, the FCC won't clear any of these for use.
For EW, specifically EW type counter UAS weapons, right?
They're all worthless. You can't use them where we're needed. New York City, Washington D.C. Who can use them?
Well, here's the deal: is that the Department of Defense and Department of Homeland Security have decreed that only certain agencies within the government can use counter UAS technology because of federal regulations involving downing an aircraft. And technically a UAS at this point in time is considered an aircraft. And there's a lot of legal issues running into that. Now they are testing counter UAS at, I think they're spooling up for 5 different airports, one of them being Newark. I do believe, if I remember correctly from an episode or two ago. But So they are slowly rolling this kind of stuff out, but it's still very limited in who they are allowing to utilize it, because I imagine, there's a lot of stuff that goes into developing a counter UAS. So, if you think about it, if you're using a frequency blaster on something like a Phantom, one of two things could happen. It could fall out of the sky, or it could return to home, right? And if you want to discover who the drone operator is, obviously you want it to return the home, because it's going to guide you right to whoever's operating it. But at the same time, if it falls out of the sky, what's the collateral damage from something like that? Yeah. It falls on somebody from 200 feet in the air or 400 feet in the air, that's going to be a big dent, if not a death. Or it falls in the middle of a freeway, causes, an accident or any kind of other thing. So they are very strict right now on limiting who has the capability of using that type of technology. Now, I do know maybe a year and a half ago, there was something going on in Miami or thereabouts, somewhere in Florida, where no, it wasn't. I don't think it was the Super Bowl. It was something else, but somebody used counter UAS technology, and I think they got sued over it, because nobody could launch a drone. So it was literally a denial of service kind of thing, because nobody could connect with their controller or their transmitter to the drone, because it was like a blanket frequency ban on. They did something, but
it's unfortunate. It's going to take basically a dispersal of 10 pounds of random liquid or something, and 58,000 people stampede each other at a stadium, 100 people dead, or a drone swarm over an aircraft that has 300 people on board for them to finally say, oh, maybe we should have these things in different places. Because right now, if only a few deputized people are allowed to have them, and they're sitting in Pelican cases at the top of a federal building and not anywhere else, they're going to be useless at the locations that they're needed at when things happen.
Yeah, but that's from a certain standpoint, that's assuming that, most people or that there's a high chance of somebody using a drone to do something malicious, right? And the cases, the evidence to the contrary is very prolific, that people aren't doing a whole lot of that. Now, there's been isolated cases here and there where, a drone flew into a stadium, or, somebody, decided to buzz a plane in Nevada. But, those cases are few and far between in terms of what people are doing with drones. People aren't out there trying to lose $1,000 investment. If you're picking up a Phantom or something like that, and people in FPV, most are going to be, out there for fun, not to be malicious. And that's really assuming the worst case scenario, which I don't always think that that's the best way to legislate anything. You want to resource to the risk, as opposed to, the possible, risk with no evidence kind of thing. Am I making sense?
That's fair, but at the same time, was it so wrong to have these jamming technologies in the hands of the people that are securing international airports and securing big stadiums and things like that? Why would there even be a drone over those locations? Or, there's no valid reason.
Well, there are valid reasons. I would kind of point to the contrary. If you go to some of the more commercial UAS groups on Facebook, a lot of them have jobs that involve flying, very close to airports, and they have to go through and get waivers and whatnot. And if the wrong person's not informed about that particular job, then they down a drone and cost that person, several $1,000s in equipment, especially some of the, higher end drones. They can run into the $15,000-$20,000 range. And you just cost them their equipment, you get sued. Beyond that, I'm sure that counter UAS technology right now is still in very much development. I would say it's not a one source or a one solution for everything. I mean, it might be somewhat easy to knock down, maybe one of our FPV drones because you can just saturate the video frequencies or the control frequencies. But something like a DJI where you can set it on a path and forget about it, or something running iNav where you're mapping out a flight path, a waypointed flight path, and you don't actually touch the controls to it. It just does what it does.
Yeah. During the discussions on the drone advisory committee tasking group for UAS facility maps, we had some wonderful people. Some of them air traffic controllers, others airport management representatives from Alaska, LAX, Reno, Tahoe, Memphis, Atlanta, and they segregated the conversation into monitoring and identification, and that's something they all wanted, and they're all working on, with the appropriate, working within the laws, and then a much lesser or lower requirement in their eyes was a counter UAS to, now you're going to take a drone out of the sky, and they all hesitated on that one from a perspective of what Josh was saying, is that you're going risking life and limb of someone on the ground when you start doing that. And we've been listening and watching a number of companies. How do you, selectively jam? How do you, are you going to use a physical counter? But I was very encouraged that most what they wanted to do is, if someone flies into their airspace, then they can be aware of it. That's usually enough, and to the point of appropriate level of regulations matched and proportionate to the risks that we're seeing. Now, certainly, I mean, good point to bring up, things like suicide drones. I think we're all bright enough to know that these things can be weaponized. Happily, I think we've gotten 1.5 million drones in the United States, and we don't have with electric powered drones, we don't have any fatalities. I'm not so naive to think that that's going to exist forever, but I am optimistic that thinking about monitoring, working on that side of it, I think would go a long way until we have to. And I do feel that there certainly are appropriate locations where taking a drone out of the sky does make sense if it's if it's a sensitive area, if it's an international airport, if it's a military base. I mean, things like that make complete sense.
The border, yeah.
Yep.
I'm going to be working with CBP here and DHS CBP to help them out with figuring out, over the Mexico border, they're bringing in, paraphernalia, drugs and shit like that. Going to be helping them fight that fight here shortly. So
cool,
nice,
cool, very cool also, piece of work.
Yeah, another comment just on the previous topic was, just like a lot of, not every technology, but a lot of technology out there. I think this needs, in my opinion, it needs to be perfected. It needs to be applied first and effective out in the international community, out in the military world where they use it internationally to fight terror, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Perfected there, just like they did with GPS, just like they did with a lot of other technology, and then bring it to the commercial world where they understand more of the risks and how are we going to implement it. Just like you were talking about, you can take out I work with the Army on counter UAS and the Marine Corps, and it's like you can fight it whether kinetic. We've already been developing something for the Army where we're using a UGV, unmanned ground vehicle, with putting an M4 on it and a radar and a tracker, and having a whole like UGV take out. You can do a kinetic type solution, or you can do electronic solution like you guys were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The FCC to worry about, but you can get around the FCC if you go to if they go test these and develop these at a military range. Yeah, they have their own type of FCC, which I've also kind of looked into a little bit. Is what can we do at military ranges, and sometimes you have more flexibility there, right? So
I think the point at where we are technologically as a nation, and even in the world, is that it I would say that it used to be that the military and agencies like DARPA drove a lot of the innovation that we later on get at a consumer level, like GPS, right? I would say now that is where it seems to me, and I might be completely wrong on this, but it seems to me that private companies are now creating the solutions that military are then taking and either improving on or field testing or that kind of thing. And it's been interesting to see, especially from a drone perspective. I think nobody thought that drones would be what they are now and what they are going to be in the future. Maybe 5 years ago, 7 years ago, when these things first came out. I think they caught everybody off guard on their capabilities and stuff.
The military knows they are way behind the curveball on this one, way behind.
Yeah.
And then, now the commercial side, we're trying to also fight it in terms of like you guys were talking about things around airports and, borders but like really, I know military, obviously they have the most money, right? And so they're going to push it along, hopefully faster, but they are really behind, and commercial is keeping up with them almost in certain, not all the way, but like they're closer than other things in history have been.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
absolutely. So, and the funny thing is I mean, from a technology perspective, I would say stuff like drones are more accessible to everybody than just something that's developed in a lab somewhere in the military that is used strictly for warfare, right, or for negating warfare. But it's definitely a technology that kind of spooled out of the DIY area, and then kind of grew from there. So
yeah, I did a project over the summer. It was actually, I was a subject matter expert for younger engineers, but my company gave it was like a competition for a group of engineers, different groups, to figure out the counter UAS mission in terms of, it was more on the commercial side of the house, or more on the homeland defense side of the house, but they were supposed to pick like a different part of the kill chain, the F2T2EA, if you guys have ever heard of that. Find, fix, track, target, engage, assess, kill chain that the military always talks about recently. And I was helping teams doing the find, fix portion, and then using different types of autonomy to help, machine learning, reinforcement learning, and then and then saw some teams do the engage portion, and we did some crazy stuff that you guys would probably start laughing at. That we took like a Mavic, what do they do? We use we basically just took some COTS UAS and started seeing what we can do to take them down. The quadcopter, particularly, we're looking at in this case, and multi-rotors, and we sprayed water on them while I was hovering it. We threw confetti on it. We threw silly string. We did, we did all kinds of stuff. And as you guys know, what do you have to do to be able to take down a drone? The easiest, fastest way to take it down is to
disrupt the props.
That's right. One prop. That's all you need, right? And so guess what worked? Confetti, right? Confetti was the simplest, cheapest solution to take down a drone. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, like that video
did it have to be shot at a significant velocity, or just the confetti floating?
So that's the problem, right? Like, how do you get it to the bad guy UAS? And that was the hard part, right? But we basically dropped it. The easiest way is to drop confetti from the top, because you don't have prop wash from the bottom to deal with
it away. Yeah.
It's like, how are you going to be able to get something like that on top of a bad guy drone? You're probably not going to be able to. And the only way to do it is fly, either over them with another drone, and that's hard enough as it is to aim that, and dealing with wind and all that kind of. So we tried that too. I took up they modified a Mavic 2 Mavic Pro 2, I think is what it's called, right? And or 2 Pro, whatever. And we basically put some payload on it, be able to hit a button and then open up a canister and it drops confetti. So I flew over a Mavic Mini, and just about like 10-20 feet above it, and dropped it, and yeah, it works. But the moment you have wind and the moment you're not directly over it, then it all goes out the window, right?
I wonder how hard it would be to take an FPV drone with some streamers on it and fly over it to where the props suck the streamers in.
I mean, here's the hard part is that, I mean, from a logistical point of view, and I kind of mentioned this when remote ID was when the NPRM came out, is there's just so much airspace, right? And getting the point of 2 drones or 2 aircraft to even collide is incredibly difficult on its face. It's like, you know, the chances of 2 planets hitting each other in space, which are basically nil. There's just so much airspace that, you know, without some kind of machine learning or AI or just incredibly crazy, you know, pilot skills where you can make those, you know,
even that, man. I mean, unless you have I mean, that's maybe the easiest way to do it, but otherwise you're eyeballing it from the ground. It was so hard, man.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's even the best pilot, it just at a distance trying to hit another drone. It's just so hard, man.
Yeah, I mean, so I would say FPV is probably your best bet before you start jumping into AI and machine learning and that kind of thing.
Right.
But it's definitely, I mean, there's just so many variables to a solution like that. It's, you know.
So I gotta ask, did the confetti jam the motors or did it snap props?
It didn't snap props. It just stopped the motor. Yeah, jammed up the motor.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Sometimes it got on 2 motors, right? But I mean, like most of the time, it would get one and immediately take it down. I couldn't do. I mean, I was trying to resist it, and
well, it's like streamers that you would use in like combat, right?
Right, combat radio control, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that'll clog an engine in a heartbeat or a motor.
Absolutely. So, I mean, we all know those will take them down. I've done combat with drones before, and you know, I've fouled my own props up with my own streamers before. So,
and friendly fire.
Yeah.
From the electronic standpoint, you know, like we talked about the FCC and all that, just because it was a short project, you know, I recommended them to go to the anechoic chamber that we have on campus or on, you know, at our laboratory, and just, you know, they were trying to use a GPS spoofing technique type thing, and not just, there are different types of spoofing type technology out there, and so they tested out different stuff down there. I wasn't part of that, but yeah, I mean, it's happening. That was just for a summer, like early career engineer. I mean, just imagine what other people are doing.
Yeah, I mean, we know there's frequency blasters. They're using microwaves to like cook the electronics. I mean, these are just ones I've seen, right? There's GPS spoofing. There's all kinds of different ways to do the counter drone, or that they're attempting to do the counter drone. But the crazy thing with the technology is, you know, it's drone technology on its face is adaptable, right? And we all know that from FPV, everything is constantly improving, and it just takes somebody who knows how to code or knows how to harden a system or something like that to get around it. So I would say it's never going to be a one solution fits all. And you know, I mean, my personal standpoint is protect the areas that need protecting, but you know, this should not be a commonly available technology either. Because
before we close out that, let me just thank, I think it's Dirty B for helping kids out and volunteering your time to get some kids. I mean, that must have been exciting. I mean, you know, yeah, we're, you know, we may not be all stoked about counter, but to get kids jazzed about technology, thank you. I mean, that's what it's about. So we really appreciate it.
Yeah, my name is Elias, by the way. Sorry.
Oh, no problem.
Welcome, Elias.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I'm in the Maryland area. I don't know where you guys are at, but
upstate New York.
Okay.
Arizona.
Spread all across the country.
All across the country. Okay. Hey,
and we had XJet from New Zealand. earlier
nice.
on.
I'm also an FAA safety team representative. I just got appointed last month, and me and Alex did. Me and Alex
Excellent.
did. Yeah.
You both did, huh?
Yeah,
Well
Alex
done,
and I did. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, it was...
I showed him the channel here, so.
Yeah, he introduced me to all the UAS channels. So thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you. Welcome.
Spreading the word. All right, so I've probably talked long enough. I think we've had some great conversations. Dave, you got anything for us, or?
Yeah, anything happening with the drone advisory tasking groups lately?
Those are still fresh, right?
Yeah, there are two. There's one tasking group number 9, when they're just starting to form up. There's a kickoff meeting happening next week, trying to make sure that we get an invitation to that. And there is the other standing subcommittee on operations and technology and standards, if I'm not mistaken, which essentially is a vetting group which will establish a bench of people who can work on tasking groups, because the Department of Transportation is insistent that anyone working on a tasking group project has to be vetted before they can start working on the project. So in an effort to streamline the process, they want a group of people ready to go, and that makes a lot of sense. And so hence the creation of that standing subcommittee. And yes, I have volunteered to work on that one too.
Awesome. Alex.
And Alex is will be I'm sure working on the one tasking group for sure.
Yeah,
tasking group 9.
Mm-hmm. I got in touch with them. I just have to finish updating my bio to send that over for them so that they can send it to get that approved and all. But I'll do that. One thing I did want to add, though, some, I guess, good news, if you could say, is for National Drone Safety and Awareness Week, my company was able to get a kids Q&A directly with the administrator. Dixon? Yes.
Good for you, Alex. That's outstanding.
So we will be hosting a kids Q&A where we get to sort of pick the questions. And so he'll answer those directly, hopefully.
So we have 7-year-old from Arkansas, John. John, what's your question? Administrator Dixon.
How are you going to protect the hobby? I'm going to work that in there because.
Is one of the questions going to be, why can't I fly my tiny whoop in my backyard?
I can't guarantee every question is going to be like that, because I don't want to be like, oh, I'm out of time.
Yeah, right. I'm sorry, I lost connection.
At least one question will be on the lines of it.
What were you thinking about network connection for remote ID?
So there's that.
That's superb, Alex. Good piece of work.
Absolutely. Are you going to be recording that and posting that? And when is that going to be?
I believe it will be live streamed. It's on the Monday during National Drone Safety and Awareness.
Awesome.
So
isn't that week, next Monday?
Next Monday, I think.
Yep.
11,
next
16.
Monday, the 16th. Yeah. So it's at 4 p.m. It'll either be live streamed. I think it's going to be live streamed. It might be live streamed by the FAA themselves.
Okay.
Or us.
If you do learn anything about the streaming of it, definitely post that on our Facebook group.
Yeah, for sure.
Will do.
And in as much as we're on the East Coast, I assume that's 4 p.m. Eastern?
Yes, Eastern.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody in the country knows that times are based Eastern time.
That's right.
That's the only time that counts.
That is.
As someone who's not in Eastern time, I have to deal with that all the time.
That's right.
Y'all still do daylight savings time. I can't take you seriously.
Yeah. Well, wait until you work with India, and the time changes. Of course, it's a big enough country where there are different time zones, but they change on the half hour. That'll hurt your head.
Super.
Wow. Yeah, so it's 12 and a half hours out. A lot of great engineers there.
Let's see. Dan, you got anything for us, sir?
No, I'm just curious if anybody here else has questions about the FPV Freedom Coalition or regulations or anything else that drew them to our meeting tonight that they have questions about.
Going once?
I'm guessing that's a no.
All right. Dirty Rat is typing something, so if he has something, we'll respond to that. So if you do have, let's see, what is the average airspeed? Yeah, late as well.
You'd have to watch Monty Python to
European
hear
or
about
African.
Right.
How
So
many Monty Python fans are there here?
Right. Well, with that awesome Monty Python reference, we will wrap this up. Just a heads up, guys. We all know the holidays are coming up, and we will adapt for those, but we will try to continue with the pace that we are at with these meetings. But on the flip side, we are anxiously awaiting some announcements from the FAA on a multitude of subjects, including education, CBO, the education requirements for the test, CBO requirements, which are going to be definitely important for us, and obviously remote ID being one of the biggest ones.
And then subsequent to that, beyond visual line of sight and flight over people.
And we believe the plans are all of those are by the end of the year, right? Well, that's the FAA's goal.
Well, theoretically, yes.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is our federal government, and we will give them the benefit of the doubt that it may not happen right away.
And some of those could be next week. Some of them could be at the very, very end.
Yeah. Yep. So most of the announcements are slated for December, but we don't have any specifics beyond that. So we will be pulling those down as they drop. We will be interpreting those and getting them back out to you guys, as well as responding and guiding you guys and the rest of the FPV community, drone community, and some of our friends within the industry on how to respond and good talking points for that kind of stuff. So just be on the lookout for that kind of stuff. As soon as we see it, we will be on it. And if you see it before we see it, shoot us a link so that we can get started on that process. But generally, we're pretty good on that. So, but just be warned that that is coming up, and we will be on that pretty hardcore once those drop. So with that, I will let you guys go. We thank you guys for joining. We had a great discussion, great turnout, and I will see you all in 2 weeks. I think.
Thanks, everybody.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Be safe.
Have a great night.